Hello, this is Gabriel Custodiet of Watchman Privacy. Listen, I know why you're here. You're looking to escape the technocratic apparatuses that you see slowly enveloping you and restraining your freedom. In that case, the best thing you can do before listening to this episode is to visit escapethetechnocracy.com to purchase my privacy course on getting off the grid. This course is for everyone. It's the best privacy tutorial on the internet, and our shop has other things as well, books and toolkits and consulting, and we accept Monero and actual privacy throughout the checkout process. I do not take sponsors. I'm not part of a company. I don't have someone to answer to. So unlike 99.9% of the people who talk about their subject, you can know that I'm pursuing the unmitigated truth as I see it. Go support you and me at escapethetechnocracy.com. Welcome to Watchman Privacy. This is Gabriel Custodiet. I'm very pleased to be joined by Shane of the Vonu Podcast and libertyunderattack.com. I am sad to say that I haven't known about Shane and Vonu Podcast for as long as I would like to admit, but it's a very fascinating podcast. And he also has a website called Liberty Under Attack where he sells liberty-oriented books, and they're all directed at being proactive and etching out more freedom in your life. We're going to talk about this stuff, just give a kind of an overview of Shane and what he's all about. Shane, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, Gabriel. I'm doing quite well. I appreciate the invitation to chat. Had you on my podcast with Urban, and it was a really great discussion. And I appreciate your work a lot. So it's been good to connect, and looking forward to our chat today.
Let's just give a kind of a overview for people. Shane, what kind of things do you discuss on the Vonu Podcast and Liberty Under Attack?
Yeah, sure. And Vonu is, I guess, a good place to start there, because that's where the publishing started, was republishing old Vonu zines and republishing Rayo's books. So yeah, I guess over at the Vonu Podcast, we talk about Vonu, and that may be a brand new word to your audience. So I'll take a moment here just to define some terms and such. But yeah, Vonu is basically pursuing an invulnerability to coercion, lifestyle changes in pursuance of an invulnerability to coercion. So this was a freedom strategy founded by a guy pseudonymously named Rayo back in the mid-1960s. I suppose it was 1967, I think was the year. But this guy was I've described him as like an early cypherpunk. He was an engineer. And there were, some really amazing articles where he's talking about starting an underground bank using like encrypted ham radio nets. So he's basically talking about, Monero back in like the 1960s. He was a very, very forward thinker. And he was so forward thinking that back in the 1960s, it had its own tyrannies, back in those days, of course. But I would say it's obviously quite a bit worse today. Or at least it hasn't stopped progressing. But yeah, he viewed basically the first realm, or I guess the way he put it was Servile society was basically untenable. So he moved out of his apartment onto a camper mounted on a pickup truck, began to basically do van nomadism in the forests of the Siskiyou National Forest. But that wasn't enough for him. He realized that if you have to have your slave tags, your driver's license and your license plates, then you're still asking for permission. You're still begging. So he went really radical with it back in those days. Went full on wilderness Vonu. He and his roommate lived in a polyethylene A tent. They stayed out there, and he typed away on his typewriter for these various Vonu scenes. Anyway, yeah, that's Vonu. Obviously, I guess some other lifestyle changes that are relevant here. I guess minimalist living on a sailboat, minimalist sailboating. Obviously, the whole realm of crypto anarchy, or I guess crypto anarchy would certainly be Vonu because it's making you more invulnerable to coercion in the digital realm, and also translating into the physical space too. More modern today, we develop, I guess there are three seasons to the Vonu podcast. Season 1 was the philosophy of Vonu, where we just covered the philosophy. Season 2 is the practice of Vonu, but only those things that Rayo discussed in his books and his writings up until 1974. And then season 3, which is our ongoing, perpetually ongoing season, where we update Vonu. And obviously we had an entire crypto anarchy series. It was like 2 years long. So I know if your audience is interested in going into deep into some of those subjects, we've covered a lot of them. But it's also way more expansive than just the technology stuff. Basically, all the ways you can build resilient lifestyles in today's day and age. And that's what we do over at LA Publications too. Is pretty much republish those Vonu scenes and make them available again, make them really easily available. And then we've got I guess crypto anarchy fiction, agorist fiction. Like Brushfire in 2048, one of our original authors or clients. Paul Rosenberg's. I think you've had Paul Rosenberg on your show. We offer both of his books for sale, and lots of other books in that area. But yeah, really just trying to focus on solutions and what we can actually do to increase our freedom or increase our vulnerability to coercion. So
I think a lot of this audience will be very intrigued and very in line with what Shane is saying here, and your podcast, the books you sell on libertyunderattack.com would certainly be of interest to the audience. And you've had some fantastic guests on your show who are, as you say, are talking about solutions. And so I just kind of want to ask a few questions, kind of getting into some of the things that you talk about. And the first one I wanted to start with is a big key to this kind of lifestyle, freedom lifestyle, is, you could call it working for yourself. There's various ways of putting this, right? Unjobbing. In your own experience, and maybe those you've come across, what are some of the key ideas, the key attributes, the key ways to escape the regular 9 to 5?
When we started season 2 and season 3, that was the first thing we talked about was, financial independence. Well, I guess we called it, and a lot, I guess the way we put it a lot is financial independence or financially independent early retirement. Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest first step, right? A lot of people are so, entwined in the first realm in the servile society. Financially, maybe they've had a career for 30 years and, wife and kids and, house with a mortgage, and you come to these ideas, and it's that's obviously not my situation, but it's a lot of people, they're definitely folks that more ingrained in the first round financial system, and it is hard to, it can be really, really hard to undo that. But I guess the way that I've always put it, it's cutting ties, one step at a time. That's really the only way to do it without going crazy, and without making yourself destitute. Some potential solutions that I recommend and have kind of looked into myself is one of the biggest vulnerabilities with the first realm, with, I guess, the employment, is that most people have one employer, and if they were to lose that one job, they have no other income coming in. They'd just be screwed. So that's the very first thing, is having, a wide variety of ways that you can make money. The other part of this too is not necessarily, you can obviously make more money, but you can also spend less. And this is where I think like self-sufficiency comes into play with, the price of food going up astronomically in grocery stores, with prices everything going up drastically. One of the ways you can, make yourself rich is by, and one way is just by providing for yourself as much as you can in whatever ways that you can. In today's age, I think that'd probably be the best one.
I think you made a good point that one thing you can do, obviously, is reduce your cost of living, move to somewhere that's a lot cheaper, maybe move to a different country that's a lot cheaper. And by doing so, you really don't have to earn as much money. And what you've done is you've created a platform for people to sell their books on yours, and you've written your own books. You obviously have a podcast to bring in donations.
And I guess another benefit that Vonu can bring, a lot of people start with van nomadism. And, like when people if they lose their house, they're forced into living in their car. So it's obviously a cheaper solution. And yeah, I guess that's underlying Vonu again. I mean, time is like the biggest, time is the most valuable thing. If you don't need to spend as much, then you can make less, which means you have more time for other things that are, more important than just, working and slaving away. But yeah, I guess a couple other things. Yeah, so we talked about unjobbing and freelancing, which everyone knows what freelancing is. A lifestyle business, which I interviewed a guy named Kevin Geary at. And then entrepreneurial startups and intensive saving. So yeah, I guess that'd be another route. There's the route of, I guess this would be the financially independent early retirement route. FIRE is the acronym for it. And it's basically where you intensively save. Like if you have a corporate job and you're making, like 75 or 80,000 a year, it's like getting to the point, like cutting things so much for 10 or 15 years and saving like 80 or 90% of your income. And then basically, investing it. And then whenever you retire in 10 or 15 years, you live off of your, whatever your investments might be. And that's a little more complicated. That was never something that really interested me, because I wasn't ever thankfully ingrained in, first realm economics or employment much. I couldn't even make it through college. So high level indoctrination. So I wasn't really interested in going the corporate job route. But it is, if you're already in there and you're making good money, that's certainly a possibility.
If people just kind of wake up, especially if they don't have a family, they might realize, hey, I'm slaving away here in this 9 to 5, and I'm just being able to pay my rent. Like, well, what if you didn't have rent to pay, right? That could certainly free up all of your time if you were, say, living in a van. And so let's just talk about that real quick. As you said, you talk about a lot about van nomadism. I know you know people who do this. Maybe you've spent some time doing it yourself. For people who want to get into that, just any tips and tricks?
Yeah, sure. So this was van nomadism was what I wanted to do for at least for a couple of years. So I did do it for a couple months, or I guess it might have been a month, down in Austin, Texas. In between my stay there with my co-host of the Vonu Podcast, Kyle, on my way to Acapulco with Jason Henza. But yeah, that was going to be my path. Was van nomadism, and now, I never ever want to leave the homestead usually. It's kind of gone a complete 180, but it is still a great for a lot of people. It's a great option. Yeah, I've got friends who they drive. They have Sprinter vans, and they have a fleet app on their phone, and they basically just drive fleet and their Sprinter vans all over the place, and they take their their house with them. So I think like for van nomadism, like that'd be obviously a really great route. If you're already driving, or if you're interested in driving jobs, it's another way to where you could save a lot of money. You can make good money. You can save a lot. But yeah, van nomadism. Like I said, this was Rayo's very first lifestyle change. He said a couple times that it's van nomadism is not a panacea, but it's a great first step. Out of the first realm. A lot of people, all they've known is, that 9 to 5 work for like 20 or 30 years. And I've heard from some folks, and obviously from reading some of these zines, when you have that time that people have never had before, it's really interesting and amazing what happens, what people can do. There are some people who love the van nomadism lifestyle. You can find channels all over YouTube, and people love it. But it's got its own challenges. Obviously, like a van's a small space. It's not a 22-acre homestead like I have here. There's a lot less productive space. And then, as I mentioned before, the slave tags are they're a pain. They can be a pain. Obviously, like residency in South Dakota is like there's some legal interstices I know you've talked about that are really attractive for van nomads. Permanent mailbox services in South Dakota, then residency. In Montana, there's a permanent license plate, which is nice for van nomads. But yeah, really, I think one of the major reasons I'm not too interested in the van nomadism, at least in the USSA, I don't want to be driving around on government roads. It may have been like feasible back in the 60s or 70s. And maybe even the 80s, whatever. But now it seems like it would put you at risk of more coercion if you drive around, that often. I would be open to doing it in Mexico potentially.
You're totally right. I know people have driven around the U.S. and whenever I have as well, suddenly realize like, wait a second, I am risking getting pulled over. And you see it all the time. Police there's a quota. There's no reason why somebody should be pulled over, but you see them, they just, hey, got to pull somebody over. That's just kind of, they're a hammer and people are the nails. And they just pull you over, and it's a roll of the dice when you get pulled over, right? And if you give any lip, or maybe you don't have all your documents in order, then there's going to be a problem. So I totally understand that mindset. And it's a shame, especially in the US, total shame, where driving around used to be a great expression of freedom. Total travesty. Now, maybe let's just kind of skip to this part, because I did want to ask you about this. In terms of, I know you're very freedom-minded. In terms of dealing with police interactions or even avoiding police, wondered if you had any kind of thoughts for the listeners about that.
I guess for dealing with police encounters the bludgies is what Rayo called them, in the Vonu zines, bludgy, like bludgeon to death. But yeah, I guess the first thing, and Kyle Reardon and I did back when LUA, when it wasn't a publishing outfit and it was the radio show. I'm pretty sure we did an episode on role playing police interrogations, and that's one thing I would definitely recommend. Is just, I mean, you're dealing with an armed thug that could potentially take your freedom. It's worth role playing some scenarios. There are videos what was it? There's the police, the cop block sort of organizations. You can find videos of it on YouTube too. But that'd be the first thing. Is I guess just knowing what you're going to say. Like if you're put in that position, make things as easy as possible. Try to make sure you survive the encounter with everything you had before. So I guess that'd be the first one. That like just preparation, preparing for potential encounters, because you don't know when they're going to happen. Obviously, that's where they have the advantage per se. But as far as like keeping off their radar, I mean, just one of the big things about Vonu is like the gray man principle, or the gray man strategy, where you just blend in. The way you avoid coercion is by not being detected in the first place. Driving like in terms of van nomadism, driving a nondescript car, like a work van, is less conspicuous than if you have like a mobile home or something like that, where they know you're living out of it. But if you have a van and no one knows for sure if it's just a work van or if someone's actually living in there, that offers a lot of protection. And then building a lifestyle where there's as little interaction with the first realm, with the Servile society as possible. And limiting the opportunities for this to happen. So yeah, if you only go to town once or twice a month versus once or twice a week, that automatically drops your risk of coercion a lot. So yeah, that's kind of the way that Rayo thought about it, was when he'd make his import export trips. back to the Servile society. Yeah, you do it with efficiency and you basically get bulk and only go shopping like 2 or 3 times a year. And that's only, 2 or 3 times at the grocery store, you got to pay taxes, like pay the sales tax. Only 2 or 3 times that, you could get pulled over, going to or from. Rayo was really worried about put you at lower risk for nuclear attack, something he was very, very worried about back in the 60s. And I suppose it makes sense with the political climate. But
on the topic of Mexico, there are a number of people, I'm sure, who listen to the show who are intrigued by Mexico. Maybe they've listened to whatever person who's kind of philosophically aligned with them. They say that Mexico is some kind of anarchist paradise, or that there's a lot of freedom to be had in Mexico. No doubt there's truth to that, but what is your own assessment of Mexico from a liberty perspective?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. Yeah, and something I thought about a lot after. So yeah, I mentioned my buddy Henza and I meeting in Austin, and we actually drove to Acapulco, Mexico. Yeah, through Mexico. It was like a 15 or 20-hour car ride. But yeah, that's basically what I was told too. That's like an anarchist agorist paradise. Like the Mercado in Acapulco is amazing, and yeah, there's a lot of anarchy there. In a good way, but also kind of in a bad way. So I guess I'll speak to Acapulco first because it's the easiest. Acapulco is a police state, 100% a police state, and I kind of was in cognitive dissonance at least for like the first week, because I had people telling me, this anarchist agorist paradise, and then there was the military driving around with machine guns, and it's like, and stopping people randomly, all the sort of harassment, like a lot of threats, it's very, very menacing. And yeah, so there was that, but I was dealing with it was a tough thing to kind of reckon with. But Acapulco is definitely a police state. I would not, the people who promote Acapulco, I've heard never leave but they're not out in public. They stay behind their, with their guards and their, mansions and whatever. So that's Acapulco. Mexico generally. Henza still, to this day, he was at Vonu Fest just this past week or two ago. And he wouldn't live in Acapulco anymore. Definitely not. But he was living somewhere in central Mexico. That was that apparently is okay. So I think there are safe spots in Mexico. You got to find them, but they can also destabilize pretty quickly. He was telling us here that he had a pizza shop, Pizza Henza. Yeah, apparently there was some murder. Like it ramped up and got pretty violent, and they had to close down. So I think there are definitely opportunities in Mexico, but I think you pretty much got to know you got to know somebody that's found an area, because being a gringo, you put yourself at risk for extortion down there. So I guess the other two advantages about Mexico, and I guess they're not really advantages anymore, because you can't do it. But we didn't stop. So we didn't stop at the border going into Mexico when they pushed. They guided us over to search the car. He just went through, and they didn't do anything. And then there was one other circumstance where in Mexico City. Mexico City is awful, terrible. We were there for we just passed through and stopped at one gas station and got, there were two cases of extortion by 2 different sets of cops within 5 minutes. I don't recommend Mexico City. Although I guess I have heard some Liberty folks promote it. So I don't know. My experience hasn't been, hasn't been that great. I mean, if I go down there, it'd be for van nomadism, and I probably wouldn't go into the cities too much. I don't know. I was actually going to go back to Acapulco, or I guess Mexico more generally, but it can be, there are a lot of opportunities, but there's also a lot of violence, and you're kind of you may not be dealing with, the government per se, but you're dealing with another coercive entity, like the cartels, and there's still government there. So it's just a lot weaker. It's trade-offs. I mean, some people like they prefer more freedom and less security, and some would prefer a little more security and a little less freedom.
Living in a shipping container. What exactly is the theory here, and why is that something to consider?
Yes. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a fun memory. I haven't thought about that in a little while, but it's funny. I stumbled across this random anonymous documentary, and this was after interviewing Smuggler a couple of times, but didn't even know about it. But this random anonymous documentary had a couple million views. Within a minute or two, it's oh, there out pops Smuggler. Holy hell. Okay. So yeah, it was basically this documentary. This was their the shipping container ideas, I guess. Smugglers, I guess something they're working on. They have, I think it's in a shipyard. So they're basically shipping containers that they've constructed, that they live out of. I guess the idea is no one knows they live there. They've got their own security. They've got their own access control. It's a place where safe place they can build technologies. Not everyone stays there all the time. It's a permanent autonomous shipping container setup.
It's a common sight, for example, in places like the U.S. If you had a shipping container on some piece of land, nobody would really think twice about that. It's also that you have a whole infrastructure of 18-wheelers that drive these things around all the time. So if you want to get up and move, that's no problem at all.
That's the semi-permanent. Because and I remember talking to him about this, but constantly being constantly moving all the time, it's really hard to build a society off that, or build anything off of being constantly mobile. So the semi-permanent structure of a shipping container, which, as you said, basically within 12 hours anywhere you are in the States, you could have that picked up and pretty much picked up and relocated somewhere else. So
the 3D printed gun movement, I wanted to ask your thoughts on this. So initially this seemed incredibly subversive. Then it became clear that there was a lot of theater to it. Many tested them and they didn't exactly work. There's been a fracturing of the community, various takeovers and betrayals and all the rest, the horrific death of Jay Stark. What is your assessment in October 2024 of the whole 3D printed gun world?
Oh gosh, it's definitely interesting. Yeah, I guess I was a lot more excited about it. 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I know the technology, folks like Ivan, a couple other folks, really pushing, making this stuff actually work. I'll admit, I was not, I wasn't too into I wasn't very as much into the tech stuff as I am today. So I really didn't understand it too much. And I was never really particularly interested personally, but yeah, I was excited in the subversive nature of it. I interviewed Cody Wilson at Defense Distributed, but you're talking about there's a lot of drama ongoing right now surrounding that, and I don't know if I want to go into that, but if people are interested, just go to Twitter or go to X, and you can find it. It's not hard, but yeah, I guess there's like with any movements, it seems, any movements, and this is why Rayo is against collective movementism. Anytime you have formal organizations and things like that, they always end, like almost without exception, and the exact way that this thing kind of is, even though it's more decentralized and it's still ongoing. But yeah, and I guess my only other real thoughts on it right now are, I guess it is, for areas of self-defense, cheap self-defense, it's intriguing, because I'm sure you've heard of what were the over in the Middle East somewhere. There's a rebel force that's using
Myanmar, I think it was
Myanmar rebels. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's kind of it's there are ways to reappropriate the technology for like self-defense and beneficial things. Not saying that they're in the wrong, but yeah, I mean there are things to learn. Yeah, I guess if anyone is interested, I interviewed Ivan the Troll and we did a gun printing 101. It's a long, dense, kind of dull episode because we go into like all the stuff, the various stuff about printers and the filaments and everything. So yeah, that's available at VonuPodcast.com. But beyond that, I'm on a couple interviews.
So I know that you were good acquaintances with Samourai Wallet, and they helped you to have an appreciation for using Bitcoin in a private way. Obviously, they were arrested in April 2024. Just your thoughts on that and where we are with cryptocurrency right now.
I think as a lot of people have said on your podcast, I think you said it too, but like Samourai was what got me excited about Bitcoin. It kept me excited about Bitcoin. So it's definitely taking the wind out of the sails moment in that regard, and then also just the fact that I'm sick of I'm kind of sick of seeing political prisoners. I've maintained the political prisoners archive over at libertarianattack.com before the publishing outfit. So I mean, there's been too many political prisoners already. So I'm not happy about that, especially considering we weren't friends, obviously. Like we're more colleagues. And I did actually invite him out to the Vonu Fest that just took place a couple months before this all happened. So I was trying to set up like some Bitcoin privacy event here at PAZNIA. But yeah, it's definitely disappointing. It's definitely disappointing. We're gonna see. I mean, we've already seen the Ashigaru, I guess the clone wallet essentially, which are bringing the Samourai Wallet back, and I'm sure Whirlpool's not far behind, so brave folks will carry it forward. That's great to see. It's obviously great to see and expected. And I guess they go back to trial. It's December 17th or something, I think it is. So we've got a couple months, and that'll be a big it's a big deal. I guess I'll offer one contrasting point because I wasn't super optimistic, especially when you consider the Southern District of New York, that terrible court where this is transpiring. It's one point of optimism, although Paul Rosenberg is always on the optimistic side, always. But he stopped by here Vonu Fest. And I asked him about the Samourai situation. And to summarize, I'll put it in my words. I'm not gonna speak for him. But I guess the upside of this is that I think because it's the arguments they're making are getting more ridiculous and more ridiculous. I remember the exact one, using like a griddle and an egg to try to describe money transmitting. Like I think they're like I do think like it's not a good spot to be in. Any, like, obviously facing a trial in, Southern District of New York or anywhere, but they're going to fight. And, if they win, it would be a big deal. It would be a really big deal. But obviously the contrast to that is true too. If they lose, for them personally, for their families, it's terrible. And then, yeah, I mean, what we'd have to see, because even pre-trial, without anything even concrete, it's closed down a lot of services and a lot of offerings. It's pushed a lot of people into Monero, like me, more. Whereas I used to be very, very much kind of Bitcoin maximalist. I knew there'd be a point sometime in the future where Bitcoin might not be feasible for routing around the first realm. But I thought it was going to be like 10 or 20 years from now, not like this year. So it's definitely up the utility in Monero. Yeah, I guess that's my general thoughts.
One thing you've settled in for the last bit of time is having your own homestead and growing your own crops, growing your own animals, things of this sort. What are some kind of bullet point lessons that you've learned from doing this that people might want to follow in your footsteps?
The biggest thing that, and I've heard it from pretty much everyone else that's at homestead, is you don't want to take on too much, at the start. Basically, it was one thing at a time. I started with just the chickens, and after losing all of them a couple times, I learned and got that figured out. Started raising a bunch of birds.
How did you lose them?
Raccoons. Raccoons or neighbor dog or something. I'm not sure. It wasn't a completely sealed chicken coop, so someone was getting in there and popping their heads off. Not sure. Again, not sure what the raccoons tend to do that. So I'm guessing it's probably raccoons. So in terms of we're definitely to the point with with meat and during the harvesting times with the gardens. Yeah, we're very, very self-sufficient when it comes to food. And the other great benefit of it is it's a corn and soy free homestead. So none of our ruminants, nothing on this property gets corn or soy to lower the linoleic acid content in their tissues. Yeah, I guess that's the other huge benefit of it too, is we can raise the highest quality nutrition, and we can do it ourselves. And since we raise lambs and goats and nothing really bigger than that, so they're about the size of deer, honestly. We process everything ourselves too, so we don't have to go take it to a USDA approved butcher or any nonsense like that. Keep at it, and it'll probably take a little while. Definitely take a little while to become profitable, because you got to learn and figure things out first, and then. We're at the point now where we have a connection in St. Louis, Muslim connection in St. Louis for Ramadan, and it's like apparently a status symbol to get the best lamb and to pay like the most for it, the most kosher, whatever. That's a Jewish term, but I don't know what
is it. Halal.
Halal. That's it. Yep. Halal. That's kind of we're setting up now for that. We just got earlier this year we got a huge run built or set up out to pastures. We're going to put up more fencing. We got the big shed cleared out, and that got electrified at Vonu Fest thanks to a PAZNIA who wanted to help out. It's amazing. And we're just getting things in motion. But it's all a lot of work, and we had to clean out that entire shed. Well, not the entire shed, but there was a lot to clean out from the small engine shop that the old owner had like 20 or 25 years ago.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, though, that if you get into the production of meats, there's obviously entrepreneurial opportunities. Everybody is interested in high quality meat that has, is natural in the real sense. What percent of food that you consume in a year would you say is produced by you?
So any of the meat, we don't buy meat anymore. We'll produce it's either deer, lamb, or beef that my dad raises. So in terms of meat, maybe hot dogs, actually. Hot dogs would probably be the only thing. Hot dogs, and then there's a crazy here in South Central Illinois. There's a truck that comes from the Gulf like once or twice a month. So we get fresh shrimp and oysters. But otherwise, I mean, it's just specialty stuff. It's nothing that nothing that we really need. But yeah, and I guess that's beyond just the meat too. We've made bread. I've made bread and stuff before, but I don't like to do that all the time. So there's a local family that raises they raise guinea hogs, which is pastured pork. So I guess that would be the only other. We do get quite a bit of that because it's amazing to get like actual real legitimate pork that's the right color. And they aren't fed trash. Yeah, and she makes amazing like white sourdough bread with the lard from the guinea hogs. So yeah, these aren't obviously necessary, crucially necessary things, but yeah, high quality meat is worth paying for, I've found. So I'm hoping people people already have bought pound ground lamb and stuff from us before, but yeah, I'm excited to start selling for Ramadan. And they come and they come and actually butcher. So yeah, I guess they come and butcher it there for you too. So you don't have to do any work. Like it seems like it's cheating, but
Interesting. Yeah, no, nice little connection you've got there. Aside from food, people are trying to become more self-sufficient. You seem to have succeeded in a big way. Some other tips on becoming self-sufficient besides the food aspect?
The most necessary things: water. Homesteads, you have access to wells, springs. Springs are Find a Spring is the website, findaspring.net or something, findaspring.com. Become self-sufficient. Water somehow. It's another crucial need, and tap water is not healthy to consume. I guess other areas of self-sufficiency. One of the things that we're big into on the Vonu Podcast and also at Veritas PAZNIA is breakthrough energy. So becoming more independent. And energy production and use. No solutions available yet, but there's a lot of work. We had at the fest. We were supposed to have Sky Huddleston, who is the entrepreneur of the Liberator rocket heater, which will eventually come with a Tesla turbine. So you can power your house with the exact same thing you're heating your house with, and it's like 99.95% efficient, more efficient than SpaceX. He said he was pretty proud about that. But he's got another project is a redesigned Bork engine, and I'm not the one to speak about the technicals on that, but I interviewed him on it. So just go to vonupodcast.com and search for Sky, SKY. But practical things, I mean, becoming more self-sufficient on energy. So when we build, right now we've got the consulate, and we build the embassy, the PAZNIA embassy. We'll get a propane inverter because we've got a 500-gallon propane tank out back, and we'll probably get maybe another couple 100-pound propane tank. And yeah, well, you still have to rely on someone to come in and fill it up at some point. It's only like once or twice a year or less than that if you stock up. And propane's super, super efficient. So that's kind of, I guess, a half step, you could say. And then around here, solar's getting pretty popular. And there's a Vonuan, or I guess a Vonuan who was thinking about coming and living on the property. And he was looking into like a dual system of solar and wind power, which around here for a couple months, you could generate a lot of power off of wind. I guess another thing that we focus on really heavily on the Vonu Podcast, thanks to my buddy Jamin Bakonik, who does a lot of hardware hacking. Something that you offer courses on this too. But becoming more self-sufficient, I guess, in the realm of technology, where you own your hardware, you own your software, and you actually control what's going on there, rather than being preyed upon by big tech corporations.
The website people are looking for is escapethetechnocracy.com for the thing you just mentioned. So what is PAZNIA?
Sure. So yeah, I mentioned it a few times. I should have defined it. But yeah, so PAZNIA is something that started as just a Vonu Fest back in 2020. I mentioned it a few times. Henza stopped by on one of his commercial van ventures. And I had the idea of having a freedom festival out here at the homestead. Vonu Fest. It actually worked out. Organized the entire thing on Keybase, and I think maybe Signal too, but most of it was on Keybase. But back before it was bought out by Microsoft back in those days. And I had 25 or 30 people scheduled to come out, and a couple months later, before the event, I had written up a Declaration of Independence and put together a constitution, and declared it the Free Republic of PAZNIA. Basically, the new country stuff is just dressing for a parallel network. Yeah, it's a decentralized country, or a decentralized country parallel network, however you want to think about it. The actual word, so PAZ is an acronym for Permanent Autonomous Zones, and then it's also peace in Spanish. So yeah, that's the I guess the general idea. So we've got our node here. It's called Veritas PAZNIA, about an hour and a half east of St. Louis. There's right now Roots PAZNIA in New York, but he might actually be moving somewhere else. So that might not be that might be somewhere else now. There's one in Mexico. There's one in Florida, I think. So basically it's a network of not just self-sufficient homesteads, but basically anything that could be of value to a traveling Vonuan, a traveling PAZNIan, however you want to think about it. So we've got a map and a directory on the website. It's only for vetted folks right now. I call them they're founding stakeholders, STEAK holders. And there's lots of valuable resources up there now. And really, the idea is speaking again to first and second realm. It's about providing solutions where if people are traveling through, they can support and they can do business with moral and virtuous people, even if they aren't necessarily anarchists or libertarians or whatever. I even put the local health food store on there because they sell raw milk and really high quality milk and a lot of great stuff. So Yeah, it's the idea of PAZNIA. It's growing, and we've got, I'll mention the website is PAZNIA, PAZNIA.com. As per the second realm, rebuilding all necessary human institutions. We've got a PAZNIA Department of Freedom, which handles like passports. We offer passports for folks. The PAZNIA Secret Space Program and Freedom Observatory, the PAZNIA Department of Transportation, the PAZNIA Department of Tourism, PAZNIA General Bitcoin Fund, and the PAZNIA Bitcoin Mines, the PAZNIA Monero Departments, Department of Health and Wellness, et cetera, et cetera. For every single aspect of the human experience, we're providing solutions to folks in our network. And here at the Wellness Center, we've got an AquaCure, a Brown's gas generator, vis-a-vis George Wiseman. We've got a Rife machine, which I still have to get the frequency generator working, but we have a Rife machine here. At this past Vonu Fest, our buddy John set up our Ormus harvesting system, monoatomics, which are incredible for health. So I've been experimenting with that and charging the Ormus water and Brown's gas with Brown's gas, and it's been fun. So yeah, a lot of cutting edge solutions in a lot of areas, and I would implore folks to check it out. PAZNIA, PAZNIA.com. And if you go to VonuPodcast.com too and search for PAZNIA, you can find a bunch of videos, trailers. We even did, we've had a few meetings of our PAZNIA Department of Technology, where we had Dave from Start 9 on there, where we went pretty deep into Start 9 and, building the new internet and all sorts of other stuff too. But those are 2-3 hour conversations with some really, really incredible folks. So we talk about what we're actually, working on building.
Yeah, no, that's great. And maybe some people are listening and they're kind of blown away or confused by what you're saying. It's because Shane is actually creating solutions and not just complaining like most people are doing or talking about, let's say, anarchy or something like this on Twitter. He's actually creating solutions. And so I'll just wind it down with this final question, Shane. You talked early on about the kind of disintegration that inevitably happens when people come together. Now, especially maybe people who are anti-authoritarian, things of this sort. You've obviously seen all this fraying occur through groups of people throughout your life. And yet you yourself have PAZNIA and some of these other group events. What do you think is the key to getting these kind of people to work together?
Yeah, and it's a good question. Very unique situation though. So I'll mention like the initial folks that were invited to Vonu Fest for our Rebirth of Freedom ceremony at PAZNIA. These are folks that have been going to the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest up in Michigan since 2015. So it'd been like 5 years at that point for a lot of these folks. Voluntarists, anarchists, agorists, etc. The first thing that's made PAZNIA successful so far is building, like having my first layer, my circle of trust, being extremely strong. And everything further with the PAZNIA network is vetted from now on. So they have to be personally approved by me or someone in that first layer, in that circle of trust, has to vouch for the reputation. And if that person were to screw up, or initiate coercion or fraud against somebody, it falls on them. It was their responsibility for bringing them into the network. We've never had to quote unquote enforce that or anything like that. But they're security culture principles of the network. Everyone knows it, and it's worked out. It's worked well so far, and we've never had anyone get stabbed like what happened at Jackfest, I think it was, a couple years ago, which I guess was a good catalyst because there was a dispute resolution document being sent around after that. But obviously we don't want those things to happen, obviously. So with PAZNIA, the first thing that people have to do is forswear the use of coercion. That's the very, very first thing to be, part of the PAZNIA network. But obviously we've got more stringent. We're trying to slowly invite people that we want to actually live with here. So we've had one person, he's a nomad. He hasn't been here for like 4 months. But he was here for 6 months or so earlier on this year. Yeah, so he stays out here sometimes, and we've got one couple who just started flagging off where they want to potentially put a cabin or a place to stay. Yeah, I guess it may not be very practical for a lot of people. Like, okay, go to a freedom festival for 5 years and then you can start working with people. That's difficult. But thankfully you don't really have to go that route now. The crazy situation that I found myself in, almost a decade ago, and how it's transpired into what's happening today. So yeah, I guess just beyond just the coercion, or even beyond anarchy, beyond no rulers. It's also about finding people that you can actually live with, can deal with living. Emotionally mature individuals, I suppose, would be a good descriptor. Yeah, it's not just about again, it's not just about anarchy. It's not just about non-coercion, because it's more. There's more kind of a spiritual development too, I guess, per se. Nothing formal, but personal development is big.
This has been Shane of Vonu. So I would say the best place that people can start if they're interested in what you have to say. And I've met Shane in person. He's a good guy, and obviously you can tell he's knowledgeable and committed to all the stuff he's doing. I'd say the first thing for people to do, Shane, would be to start listening to the Vonu podcast. Go back and listen to some early episodes, get a feel for what you're all about. I know that it's also, I'm looking at the Odyssey channel if you want to kind of not subscribe by podcast. I don't think you're on fascist tube, as you say so much anymore. And so I think that would be the best place to get in. And then people can find your bookstore, libertyunderattack.com, and maybe check out a couple of the books that are on there, which are no doubt of interest to the audience, and just kind of start from there. And your final thoughts, Shane?
Yeah. Well, it's been a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun. VonuPodcast.com is definitely the best place to start. Everything PAZNIA goes there. There's a lot of free audiobooks. Like the second round book on strategy, the audiobook is available for free on the Vonu Podcast site. Just along with Calibrations Just Below the Surface, A Guide to Security Culture, which I think are another one that your audience might find interest in. But I guess the last thing I'll mention in regards to PAZNIA too, and this is partially intentional because I want people to, like, obviously legit, but if people just look at the front or just look at like some of the culture jamming, some of the comedy, the jokey stuff that's on the PAZNIA site, they might think it's just a joke, which is part of it. So I guess I'll just kind of leave that teaser out there. Perusing the PAZNIA site, you'll find some comical things. I suppose that's really it. If you check out PAZNIA, if you enjoyed hearing about PAZNIA and you want to learn more, I definitely recommend joining the network in some fashion, hopping on Telegram, SimpleX, and get to know folks here and get vetted and eventually come out to an event here at Veritas. They're small intimate gatherings, but they're definitely enjoyable, and the network is being built. So especially your audience, Gabriel, they're the folks that we want to reach. But we obviously, in this dangerous world, we have to do it in a safe manner so as not to jeopardize everything. Yeah, finally, Liberty Attack Publications. We do offer books, audiobooks, digital books, which you don't have to put any personal identifiable information in. You can pay them in Arrow. So they're privacy-friendly ways available. And we also offer ghost pads and ghost phones, thanks to, again, my buddy Jim Koenig. And I guess that should wrap it up. I appreciate the invitation, Gabriel. It was great. Looking forward to much more in the future.
Hey, thanks for listening. Look, I could use your help real quick. If you could share this, engage with me in some way, leave a review anywhere. This really helps me to break the technocratic shadow banning that is happening with my brand. And of course, if you really want to escape the technocracy, go to escapethetechnocracy.com. Privacy tutorial series, books, consulting, and of course, you can leave a donation. Thank you very much.